Good morning, everyone from New York. Good afternoon, everybody in India. My name is Rita Kakati-Shah, and I'm your guest for Amazing Namaste today. I would like to start off by telling everyone what Amazing Namaste means to me. So I'm actually very excited because I recently found out that Amazing Namaste is really bringing about everybody with heritage origin that lives in the northeast of India from the Seven Sisters area. So I was excited to find out myself that Namaste actually is the acronym for the different states. So we have the N, Nagaland, we have the A for Arunachal Pradesh, we have the M for Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, A for Assam, that's where my parents are from originally, where my heritage is from. We have S for Sikkim, we have T for Tripura, and then finally the NE is for Northeast. So what a lovely name, very welcoming, very warm. So that's what Amazing Namaste means to me. It's an exciting journey. It's a way to find out about our heritage and our stories. So I'm going to share with you today a little bit about myself. My parents are Assamese. I think they're tuning in today as well. So I'm going to say hi, mummy, hi, daddy, if you're watching. They're in London. I was born and brought up in London. My dad is a doctor. He moved to the UK back in '69. As one of very few doctors at the time who moved with, I think, only £2 UK in his pocket, and he had nothing except that £2, and he found his way and settled in the UK. He then went back to Assam a few years later. He then married my mother and then brought her across in, I think, 1974, and then they settled in London. A few years later, I was born. I have a younger brother as well, Rishi. If you're watching, I'm going to say hello as well. So yeah, I was born and brought up in London, in the UK. And I went to school. My university was in London too. I have an actually interesting story about that. I started studying medicine in my early days purely because that is a very Assamese second generation thing to do. It's a very Indian thing to do, and my parents, they would have been delighted to have me follow in their footsteps as well. But I studied that, and then I decided that actually, you know what, although maybe I liked and admired doctors very much, it probably wasn't the best profession for me. So I actually transitioned out of medicine and I converted to King's College in London, where I studied mathematics and management. And I did my bachelor's there, also did my master's in financial mathematics. And then I started my career actually in Goldman Sachs in London. So that's really where my global business entrepreneurship journey really started. So we're talking about the early 2000s now, where in London I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, a young student at university, and I started in the world of finance. That was an interesting story, actually, how I started in finance. I was at King's College, and I went to a careers fair by accident. It wasn't intentional. I accompanied another fellow student, a friend of mine, and I was just waiting for her on the side until she was done. When she was done, a lady came out, and we just started talking, having a conversation, and just about life. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that stage. I just knew I enjoyed my education very much. I was very into mathematics. I was very interested in financial markets, but that was it. That's all I knew. 45 minutes later, this lady who I met gave me her business card. She happened to be the global head of recruiting at Goldman Sachs. And that's really how that journey started. It was, she invited me to come down to the offices soon after. And then 32 interviews later, the world of finance is known to have a lot of interviews at Goldman specifically. So that's how I started my world at Goldman Sachs. Now, I started my career actually on the trading floor. I was in sales trading on the equities trading floor. What that meant was that I had to be in the office at 5:30 a.m. every morning. which is quite funny because it's actually 5:30 a.m. here in New York, so you'd think I'd be used to it. But that's how it started. I loved it, got focused into the markets and everything that came with it, got really immersed with my team, my role. I also got very involved in diversity issues, inclusion issues. When I was at Goldman, I helped set up a women's network. I really wanted to see more women at the firm and meet each other. At the time, in the early 2000s, there were definitely women at the firm. There were definitely women from India at the firm as well. But I was one of few, and I just wanted us to get together. So I helped everyone get together and form these networks, which was a lot of fun, actually. And then, I was at Goldman Sachs for about 10 years. I moved to very different areas within the firm. I was in fixed income for a bit, in some different project roles. I loved it. It was fantastic. I actually got a prize while I was at Goldman for my efforts, I guess, in diversity and inclusion. So that was a nice little cherry on top, that they appreciated the work. So fast forward 10 years, and from the world of finance, a family friend, another fellow Assamese actually, approached me one day and said, "Hey Rita, you have a business background." I guess because I was at Goldman and I studied finance and mathematics, and said, "Will you help me set up something to do with clinical trials in Delaware?" So my first question is, what on earth is Delaware? Not where is it? I later learned that it happens to be a place in the US, in the eastern part of the US, where companies set up initially. So long story short, that is how I got my feet wet in a completely different industry. And I absolutely loved it. What was that even meaning? So for example, I came from a big multinational corporate. I was used to every single process, procedure done, very, very fine-tuned. All of the documents, the I's would be dotted, the T's would be crossed. And then going from that to a smaller company, which I helped set up, in fact, was very different. And I loved it. That was real life to me. And I got involved in business development, which meant traveling all around the world and meeting key opinion leaders and the specialist in clinical trials and central nervous system, CNS Drug Development. I was very involved in that. That took me around the world. I ended up in New York, one chance meeting, and I met my now husband, Rasheen, who maybe I think is tuning in as well from the other room, I'm not sure, but hello if you are. And that was a really, really fun encounter. We soon got married after, I think, 5 different wedding ceremonies. So here's the thing, anyone who is a global citizen would probably realize this, that when you live from different parts of the world, you have friends and family from everywhere. So we started off the process in the States, in Columbus, Ohio, wedding. We had a celebration in New York. We had the main religious ceremony in Assam, which is obviously where my family are from. Any Assamese folks out there watching this, hello to everybody and family in India, in Assam. We also had another wedding, number 3 rather, in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, which is where Rasheen's family were from originally. And then back to Ohio for a wedding reception the following year, and then finally in London to really celebrate my friends and family as well. So that was my journey of moving to the States. Yes, I've got a comment there, very big long wedding, absolutely, yes. I now have 2 small children who are fast asleep. Rhea, my daughter, is 5.5. Rahi, my son, is 7.5. And when they were very young, I took around 3.5, almost 4 years off to raise them. And then I realized, like so many other mothers out there, how difficult it is actually to really go back into the workforce when you have taken time off to raise your family. Suddenly, a lot of companies see the work that mothers doing out of the actual workforce as actually not been working. Now, I would argue that, the skills you build as a mother is far more, I think, tougher, skills-driven than anything I'd ever done. I remember actually when I was at Goldman, I thought, wow, working 24/7 sometimes was long. I thought in the pharmaceutical industry, when I was traveling, crossing time zones, sometimes multiple times a day, that was tough. You know what? That was nothing compared to my motherhood journey. I was working 24/7 as any other mother does. And, you know, you are sleep deprived constantly. You are always on it. You can never take a sick day. You're always there for your family. So that really taught me a big lesson as well. So I thought, you know what? I want to do something about this. So I then started my company, Uma, in New York City, to really empower other women and minorities to really build confidence, inspire professional and personal success, and really to build leadership and resilience specifically in women and minorities in the world. So that really led to the birth of Uma. I named the company Uma. I call her the goddess of go-getting, because in Hinduism, she is a goddess. She is a mother, she is a daughter, she is a sibling, she is a wife. So she really depicts all of the many, many roles that we have as women in society. And I thought, you know, it's a short and sweet name, and it's actually going back to my roots as well. So that's what Uma was started. That was almost 4 years ago now. We're now established, headquartered in New York. We have an office in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Toronto, and London as well. So we're really spanning the network, certainly in the Western world. I also get invited to speak a lot at global forums. So pre-quarantine, pre-pandemic, I used to travel really around the world to speak about gender equality, women's empowerment, and really how to create policies and an encouraging workplace culture for companies in diversity and inclusion. So that was really my journey and what I do at Uma. The other thing about Uma is we recently started our own TV show, which I host. It's called The Uma Show. And the journey of that is really to bring the stories of other South Asian women and minorities to the forefront, build role models for us. I certainly grew up in the UK having Assamese heritage, but I didn't see that many role models, certainly in the Western world. I'm trying to change that now by having this platform for folks like myself, for everybody else out there. So that's really in a nutshell what my professional journey has done. I've been to Moscow, to Sochi, to Madrid, Brussels, Paris, to speak on different topics to do with my business as well. So that's my global business journey. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how my achievements now really relate back to my roots and how that is relevant really to amazing NamastE and the Northeast. So I guess the first point about that is that really it was my parents and them obviously coming from Assam, new country, settling in the UK. They were very keen to not just absorb the new English culture they were in, but really to keep their Assamese roots. So my brother and I were brought up in exactly the same way. You know, my parents spoke Assamese to us at home. We soon met some other fellow second generation Assamese folks in the UK, and my parents, alongside some of their friends, started off Assamese school, which was incredible because it gave the opportunity to folks like my brother and I and other second generation Assamese people to really learn how to read and write Assamese, but not just that, to really absorb the culture. I know my parents were so keen on not just having us learn how to read and write Assamese, but listen to the music, learn the dances, learn about the food. You know, one of my favorite memories, and actually what I remember, and every time I start a new job, every time I'm about to go on one of my global business trips, I always remember my mum's fish curry. It's called masor tenga, which is my favorite food in the whole wide world. It's a traditional fish with a bit of a citrus taste to it from Assam, and I absolutely love it, and that is one of my memories from the Northeast as well, and how that really helps me in everything I'm about to do. You know, having fish as well is a sign of good luck, especially in Assam. So that would be an auspicious thing when I was about to go for a job interview, an exam, anything that was formative in my years growing up. My mum used to make that for me. The other memory I have as well, food-wise, is bayoch, which is the translation of rice pudding. And to this very, very day, it's my favorite pudding dessert of all time. I have memories still of my Aita, both of my Aitas, making that for me when I was young, and when my parents took my brother and I back to Assam to visit. And also my special rice pudding was made to me by my hem brother Jetima, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but she's my mother's eldest sister, and she used to make the best rice pudding. So that was one of my memories, the food. And also in the UK, growing up, Assam tea, it was such a big part of not just Assamese life, but UK life. It's a big thing. I'm a tea drinker like so many people, and that really, really resonated with me. So I think, my Assamese spirit was really part of me. My mum also made sure that I learnt Xattriya dancing. Xattriya is one of the sacred dances of India, specifically coming from the northeast of India. It's where the Assamese monks used to dance, and really in memory of our guru, Sankardev, who was the founder of Assamese modern culture to date. So that's something that really resonated with me growing up all the time. So I guess I wanted to just summarize by saying the Assamese community, my food, my spirit all along, and just having my parents being there with me and my family in Assam was incredibly worthwhile, especially to me. And some of the other amazing things about the Northeast that I wanted to talk to you about, which I found out really when I was getting married. So now going back a few years again, now obviously we all know about the dowry system in India. What I loved about Assam and the Northeast states is that there is no practiced dowry system today. It makes me think the work I do today in women's empowerment and thinking about how women have a single and a more equal place in society, it's fantastic. As we begin a conversation around the world really on equality in women, there's nothing better to me than having to tell people that, there was no dowry system in Assamese culture. It just doesn't exist. In fact, it's the reverse way round. You want to marry our daughter, what can you do for us? You show us how you can take care of her, and I love that. So I think that's wonderful. That part of the other things I love about the Northeast in particular is the culture. I think if you think about the rest of India, where there is a big religious focus too, I think what guided my upbringing is that, my parents were Hindu, but it was more of our Assamese culture that I got brought up in, rather than the fact that I happened to be Hindu. So I would practice holidays like Bihu, our food celebration, our harvest celebration at the start of the year in January, and in April when it was our New Year celebration. That, for me, was an Assamese person growing up. And I love that. That just resonated so very much. The culture of it. So even to this very day, living in New York City, when I have friends of mine from other parts of India come to me and ask me about different holidays, I always tell them about Bihu as being one of the most popular celebrated ones. Bihu and Hongko Jayanti, to really celebrate Guru Hongkodev's birth and his death ceremonies. So these are two things that really resonated growing up for me. And also, as I've mentioned, I can't keep talking about the food enough, because it is so unique. And the people from Assam, they're just so sweet, so gentle, very different. Every time I go back to Assam, a trip is now, I think, long overdue. I haven't been back in a couple of years, but just the warmth you feel. I think one of the things that you don't have when you grow up in the Western world, other than from your immediate family, is the warmth of your extended family. Now, I never had that growing up, because it was just my mom, my dad, and my younger brother. So we kind of resonated in a way with our Assamese they became our extended family. So to this very day, that was how it was too. But that is some of the warmth that you feel. So I tell everybody about the Northeast that it is such an amazing state. And yes, there's the Mighty Brahmaputra that flows through the river, which is, I guess, why fish is such an important part of our diet. But that is something that is just so, I think, mighty, the strength. Anybody from the Northeast will feel this. Any Northeasterners out there that, I know you feel this as well. It's something that is so resonating in, I think, our spirit. When we do things in world, when I would say succeeded in the business world. When I built a business and I'm building it around the world, I think it's the blood that runs through me, that mighty strength of the Brahmaputra, if you like to call it, who was really that strength and that fighting spirit you get from my Assamese background. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Again, I'm so excited to be here. And I wanted to ask if anybody has any questions. I can see some comments. I can see people are excited as well from some of the comments, so thank you for writing those. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them, or even just say hello. That would be great as well. Just wave or write something. I think you can post comments here too, so feel free to ask any questions you may have, and I'd love to answer them, or even just say hello. Hi. My niece is saying hi. How are you, Mamun? So, oh, my mum. Hi, mummy. Hi, everybody. I'm seeing lots of hellos come up, so I'm just saying hi to everybody. So my mum and dad are on there watching as well. So thank you for that question. My parents were from Hualkusi in Assam. Hualkusi, yeah. So that is somewhere that obviously when I go back, flying to Guwahati, spend a lot of time in Hualkusi as well. So yes, great question. Thank you so much. So my parents are from Hualkusi. My mum actually spent a lot of her upbringing in Tezpur, which is where she studied. Back in her day in Assam, she was actually a famous singer. So when she moved to the UK, she actually taught myself and my fellow friends how to sing and dance as well. So I think I get a lot of my creative blood from my mum as well. She teach me how to do that as well. Oh yes, and about the silk as well. So, oh yes, what I'm wearing today, this is a gamusa. So this is something that I happened to pick up very quickly at 5 a.m. in New York. So this is very traditional Assamese, literally translates to gamusa, like, you know, wipe yourself. But the silk industry is so prominent. And you know, when I go out to any Indian function here in the US, I always don my sador mekhala. You know, my mum got me lots. I get lots from Assam every time I go back. It's our traditional dress and my favorite thing to wear. Everybody who I meet, they keep saying to me that, hey Rita, I love that sari you are wearing. You know, I love it when people say that, because I can't wait to correct people that, hey, it's not a sari, it is a mekhala sador. It means it's 2 pieces, and I tell people how to wear it and they just love it. There is something about the silk and about everything that is so unique. And actually, Hualkusi was where the original silk looms were. In my parents' houses, they had their own sort of silk weaving looms. I know my dad and my mum, they even commented that when they were very young, they used to even take part in sort of getting involved in that looming process. That's amazing. So I love hearing stories like that. Another question on the silk, absolutely. And you know what about the silk? It comes in many, many different colors as well. So it's bright, it's vibrant, it is part of the personality of the Northeast and part especially from Assam as well. And oh, somebody's another question about a little bit more about my profession. Okay, so what I do with Uma at the moment is really a couple of different things. Two main things. One thing is that I really help empower and coach and build confidence in women, specifically who are looking to go back to the workforce or who want to get into leadership positions. I do a lot of work with women in leadership, negotiation skills, communication skills, how to present to the best of your ability. The other part of what I do is a lot with corporate training. So I'm working with multinationals, smaller companies, mid-sized companies, Fortune 500 companies, FTSE 100 companies around the world in training senior leadership, management, employees about how to create inclusive workplace cultures, how to be more diverse, how to talk about allyship and race in the best way possible. That's a little bit about what I do. We also help companies build return to work programs and different programming for companies as well. So I do a lot of strategy work as well with companies and on the business front. So part of the reason I travel and I get invited to travel to different parts of the world is for my advice, my strategic advice on how can companies do things better, how can we become more of a global economy as well, what can you translate from what you've learned in the US to something we can do in Europe. So I get asked these questions a lot by the management in companies. I also do a lot of board advising as well. So I sit on some advisory boards around different companies around the world, really, just to give them strategic advice also. So I hope that answers the question on a bit more about what I do in my profession. I am on LinkedIn, actually. So from a business perspective, professional, if anybody wants to connect with me, just look me up, Rita Kakati-Shah, and I'm there. Oh, before I go, my mum just pointed out about Bharatanatyam as well, and my artwork. Thank you, Mum. She wants me to mention that I do a lot of painting and art as well, and I did before, and I'm a trained Bharatanatyam dancer as well, not just Xattriya, but Bharatanatyam as well. But I specifically talked about Xattriya because today is about the Northeast and embracing our roots there as well. Amazing. Well, if there are no other questions, I just want to thank everybody again for your time today in watching. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to say bye now. Bye, everybody.